Dear Mama, it's been really weird not having you and the rest of the family here next to me. It's been really hard not having Joseph here. It's just, as a mom, you miss one. Even with 19, you miss one when they're not there. But I think the risks are worth it in the fact that he really desires to use his life to bless other people.
This new court order just made Joseph Duggar's entire defense strategy useless, and Florida's law is the reason why. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I've got an update for you today, and honestly, this one feels surprisingly positive. Because I've been digging into how the state of Florida handles cases like this, and I have to say, I'm genuinely impressed with the level of professionalism from the team involved in the case against Joseph Duggar. Leading up to the most recent hearing, it seemed like Joseph's defense team was filing motion after motion. They were making a lot of noise on the court docket. Meanwhile, the prosecutors stayed pretty quiet, aside from filing the initial complaint and sharing some basic information with Joseph and his lawyers. So I was really curious to see what would happen in that courtroom. I was hoping we might actually see Joseph show up. Obviously, that didn't happen. But during that hearing, his official plea of not guilty was entered. A pretrial hearing was also scheduled for coming up in July. And there was one motion in particular that his team filed. They wanted to change some of his pretrial restrictions. I'll get into that more in a moment. Now, I'll be honest, there were parts of this case that had me worried, especially when you look at what's been happening outside the courtroom. The way this family tends to manage information, control the narrative, and keep people close to them from actually looking at the truth, it's a pattern we've seen before. Joseph has some serious obstacles in his case. For one thing, there's already a confession that came out during the investigation. And we also know about a recorded phone call between Joseph and the girl's father. That call is key evidence, but it's not the only evidence. Far from it. Outside of court, Joseph's strategy has been pretty clear. When we heard those phone calls between him and his wife's family, there was clearly serious tension. Disagreements about how Joseph ended up in this situation in the first place. And here's where the rumor mill starts spinning. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that a family member was reportedly telling people that the only reason all of this is happening is because the wife's parents were angry. Angry because they had been asked to move out of a home they were living in, a home owned by Joseph and his wife. According to that rumor, the parents were upset about losing their housing, and that's why they reported Joseph. That there was no other reason. The same source allegedly claimed that the family had known about this information for years and did nothing, and only acted once something bad happened to them. So the narrative being pushed is that this was all retaliatory, vindictive. And then the story would shift, sometimes saying the whole thing is made up, other times saying even if it's true, it wasn't that big of a deal. Which is why they supposedly waited so long to report. That's been the spin. A steady feed of information trying to suggest that this should have been handled privately, that it's all being blown out of proportion, and that really, it's the other family's fault. Not theirs. They're playing the victims. They're also throwing out the idea that law enforcement is on a witch hunt, hyper-focused on them because of their religious beliefs. That they're being attacked by the enemy, so now they need to double down. But here's what else has been happening outside of court. The family that reported Joseph, they lost their housing. The father lost his job. They faced eviction. Their utilities were cut off. There were reports of drones flying over their house. There was even a break-in at their home. And just this past weekend, I heard from someone with very close contacts to the other side. Apparently, Joseph's family has been using their friends to try and sniff out where the reporting family has gone. Because they've left the state of Arkansas. Their current location is known to authorities. Their closest loved ones know where they are. But they're specifically not telling most people because they need to stay safe. They don't want to deal with harassment. Yet over the weekend, those friends were going around asking if anyone knew where this family was staying, trying to locate them. I've heard that this activity has been relayed to police. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, there are additional charges filed, not related to the original case, but for witness interference, tampering, or intimidation. Because trying to find out where they are, they don't need to know that. There's no legitimate reason. The strategy all along seems to have been put pressure on the family. Maybe if we make their lives miserable, they'll drop the case. But that's not how any of this works. Now, let's talk about why Florida changes everything. Because the state of Florida has a unique law, very different from Arkansas. In Arkansas, if you report something, you have to give your name and phone number. Your identity cannot be kept anonymous from the person you accuse. And that's actually a result of a past lawsuit filed by the same family against a city and county over a hotline tip. So now, in Arkansas, the accused gets to know who reported them. But Florida is not Arkansas. In Florida, the law protects the identity of anyone who files a report of child abuse or related concerns. Their names are kept confidential, and that includes court proceedings. So when the judge issued his order on the motion to compel evidence, he allowed Joseph to gain access to records, investigation files, videos, forensic interviews, witness statements, and case notes, but only the evidence that the state actually intends to use at trial. Not everything. And crucially, any information that would reveal who filed the initial report must be completely redacted. Joseph already knows who reported him. It's his wife's family. But in court, none of the documents will show that, which means he cannot use the defense he clearly wanted to use, that the family is doing this because they're angry at him, that they're bad people, that they have a vendetta. That whole smear campaign? The judge has essentially blocked it. Florida has what I'd call a pretty smart law. It's designed to encourage people to come forward when they see something wrong. Lawmakers don't want anyone to worry about retaliation or negative consequences. So they have a robust protection for witnesses who report. Their identities stay confidential as long as they aren't called as a witness in the case. And even then, the family of the child will not be put on trial. Their choices will not be the focus. There are also civil laws that protect reporters. If someone files a report that is credible, not done with malice, and backed up by corroborating evidence, they cannot be sued by the defendant for defamation. The only way a lawsuit could happen is if the report was made with malicious intent. The whole purpose is to remove any deterrent, to make sure people feel safe protecting a child. And it gets even better. Under Florida law, depositions of anyone under the age of 16 are not allowed. So Joseph cannot put the girl on trial. He cannot question her credibility directly. Instead, his defense will have to focus on the investigators, on their procedures, their credibility, their work. He cannot simply shift blame onto the family who reported him. The only way that family could be brought into the courtroom as witnesses is if the state itself decides to call them. And I honestly don't know if this case will go to trial. I really, really hope it doesn't, to save everyone the heartbreak of that process. But we've already seen that the family on the other side doesn't seem to care about who gets hurt. It's all about clearing their names. So this protective order is great news. It limits what Joseph can do. It minimizes the damage. The defense he wants to use, the smear campaign, the vendetta narrative, he cannot file that in court. It's very similar to a previous case where the defendant wanted to bring up unrelated people as a defense, and the judge said no. That would only confuse the jury. Same principle here. Going after the credibility of the reporting family, pointing fingers at them, only confuses the jury and puts those people at risk of further retaliation. I was honestly super impressed when I saw this protective order. Not all states have laws like this. Arkansas certainly doesn't, not anymore, thanks to the actions of this same family. So, while to the average person this might not seem like a big deal, to those who know how this family operates, it's a huge shock. They cannot use the court docket to throw out baseless allegations. They cannot paint innocent people as villains. That strategy has been shut down. Now, on top of all that, Joseph also filed a motion asking to modify his pretrial restrictions. The order was only a couple of pages, very short. He claimed that the restrictions were causing him undue hardship and making it difficult for his family unit. He argued that the case doesn't involve his family, so he should be able to return to normal life, live at home with the kids, have no restrictions. He actually told the court, in essence, "This has nothing to do with my kids. I should be able to do whatever I want. I'm so sad because I haven't been able to talk to them since March." Are you serious? I can see why his own attorneys didn't even try to argue that motion. No judge is going to look at that and say, "Oh, it's a hardship that you can't talk to your kids while you're out on bail, facing life in prison." The entitlement is astonishing. You're walking free, facing serious charges, and you're upset because you can't see your children? The judge is not going to grant that motion. But what this filing really exposes is that Joseph wants to go back to normal. He doesn't seem to understand how serious this is. All he appears to care about is making sure his wife doesn't leave him, because if she gets the kids back, he can't live with her. That's the reality. The motion is basically, please give me my kids back, because this is so hard on me. I'm innocent until proven guilty. If you were hoping he might take accountability, the answer is a clear no. He has no intention of doing that. He doesn't want to follow any rules. He wants the court to take the unusual step of removing protections that exist to keep the community safe while he's out on bond. The level of entitlement never ceases to amaze me. But thank goodness Florida has the laws it does. Because if this were in Arkansas, I guarantee you the reporting family would not be getting the same protection. One final note. I've been told that if the other side continues to sniff around, trying to locate the family, law enforcement has been made aware. I honestly hope more charges follow. What they're doing right now is just wrong. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Florida's law will completely block Joseph's defense strategy? And should the court add witness tampering charges? Let me know. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.